Hello and welcome everyone. So in this video, we are going to talk about JavaScript functions. Functions are the hardest part to understand in JavaScript, but in this video, we will try to tackle it. So what are functions? Functions are codes that perform single or multiple actions in JavaScript like alert and prompt. So there are two types of functions. There are pre-existing functions like alert, prompt, like you have seen, and then there are ones that we can make by ourselves. Now over here, a thing to remember is this. Whenever we write a function, let's close this. Whenever we write a function, like let's say I wrote alert, I always put these brackets after that. These brackets means that you're running the function. A function won't run unless there are these brackets. So for example, if I were to go to inspect, go to console, remove all of this. Okay, if I were to just write prompt, and that's it, it will give me this thing like F means function, prompt, that's it, but it will never run it. If I want to run it, I need to call the function. So the way I can call the function is by doing prompt and then the brackets, and this means run this function. When I press enter, it runs. Okay, now inside the functions, we can have something called arguments. So for example, I can do prompt, okay, yeah, what is your name? So now what is your name is an argument. When I click it, again, it shows up over here. You can have multiple arguments, so I can do, again, I can do prompt, what is your name? And I can do like, how are you? Doesn't really matter. You just need to put a comma in the middle and then click. What is your name? How are you? Anyways, so you can have arguments inside your functions. Now, as I told you guys before, there are two types of functions. There are functions that are pre-existing, and then there are functions that we can make. So before we start making our functions, let us open the files that we created in our last video. I'm gonna open them with Sublime Text, close, and then open it up with Sublime Text. Okay, so we have a script.js over here. Now we will create our own function. Now there are many ways to create a function, but the first method I'm going to show you guys is called function declaration. Now let's delete all of this and let's start with saying function. Actually, let's open this side by side so it's better. Yep, we'll say the function is testing. I'm just gonna call it that. Then I'm gonna put console.log. What should it say? It should say it works. Yay, to show extra excitement. Now let's inspect the page as well. Console. Okay. Now over here, if I save this and I refresh this, nothing happens. Because right now we have just declared that this function just exists. Like, for example, if I go over here and I say testing, see, I have this function available to me now over here, testing. But it's not running, like I said, because we have just declared it. We haven't ran it. So the way to run it, like I told you before, is we need to call the function. So we have to do testing and the brackets. And if I save it now and if I refresh it, it works. So this is the first method that you can use to create your very own functions, and then that's how you call them. Now for the second way to call a function, it's called function expression. And you can do it like you can just say variable testing 2 is equal to, and then just delete the name over here. And this will become testing 2. Control save. Actually, just so that it's clear for you guys, it works 2. Okay. Now if I refresh it, it works 2. This is the second way you can make your very own functions. Now, over here, this function is also called an anonymous function. It's because in the previous function, the function itself, its name was testing. Over here, the function itself has no name. It is just assigned to a variable, and we can call this function when we call the variable called testing2, but the function itself doesn't have any name. Now, there are many reasons why this is useful, and we will get into it later, but for now, this is enough. Okay. Now, we know how to create functions. The uses of these two, like I said, we'll discuss later. But right now, I will show you now why we use arguments in functions. So, for example, let's say you wanted to watch a movie. So, on Netflix, right? So, function view, and then console.log. The movie you want to watch will be let's say it's Suits series, and after this you have to call the function view, done, control save, and then you refresh Suits. But let's say you decided, okay, I don't want to watch Suits, I want to watch something else, so you will have to control C, control V. You're gonna have to create another function called I don't know, view2. You're gonna have to change the name of the movie you want to, or the series you want to watch. Let's say Friends, then control save, then refresh. Oh, sorry, I'm still calling the previous one. View2, control save, refresh, Friends, and then imagine you want to change again, and then again, and then again, and you have to repeat all of this. Now, also imagine that this is not some basic code that we are writing. It's like thousands of lines of code. You will die doing all of this stuff. So we will use the concept called dry. That means do not repeat yourself. And basically, we want to make this code as efficient as possible, so that you can toggle through movies very quickly. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this code much, much, much better. So what we can do is we can go to function view, and over here I can just write movies, and over here in console.log I can just write movies. You see, I'm using an argument over here. And in view, now I can say I want to watch Suits, then later maybe I say, oh, okay, I don't want to watch Suits, I want to watch Friends. Maybe no, I don't want to watch Friends, I want to watch some movie, let's say Shooter. Doesn't really matter. Just control save, I refresh, Suits, Friends, Shooter. You see how quickly we made this code much more efficient. That's because of the use of arguments. Now let's try to do one more thing. Let's delete all of this. Let's make a function called add, like addition. Then we can have two variables, two arguments, x and y, over here. Then what x and y will do is, well, first of all, let me just, it's good practice to add just console.log to see if the function is working even. So console.log x and y, and what they should do is x plus y, right? Now add 10 and let's say 20. These are the things we want to, do addition on. Control save. Okay, refresh. Okay, so it did not give us the answer, like 30. The reason I added console.log is because it's showing till here the function itself is working. Like we put the value over here, the value goes over here, it adds the value over here at 1020, but it is not performing the function. What if I do over here? If I do add, I have the function add available to me. What if I add 10 and 20 over here? Again, 1020, like the console log, but it's not performing the function. It says undefined over here. Now, the reason this is happening is because, we are not actually returning anything. So far, we have just done functions that just write stuff, like you need to log it. But over here, we need a value in return. So there's a way you can do that. So the way we can actually get a value in return is we will do function add x, y. Everything is fine. The only thing we need to change over here is return x plus y. Now if I refresh it over here, okay, now I do add again, and okay, well, what happened? Okay, add 1020. Here we get the answer 30. So this is the way you can actually get a value. When you're doing a function that you actually want a response back, you need to add this new word that you have learned today now, return. And this is how it will return the value. If there is no return, it will just return undefined, because the way functions work is that first of all, in the beginning, there is an input. This will be the input. Then there is the function. This will be the input, sorry. After this input is gone, there will be the function itself and all the complexities or whatever it's supposed to do. So first there is an input. After the input, there is the function itself, like add x, y, blah, blah, blah. It will perform the function. And after that, it will ask, what should I do now? I have done the calculation or whatever it is. Now, if there is a return, it will be like, okay, return this value. So it will return it. If there is no return, it will just give undefined like it was giving before. Now, one thing to remember here is you can only have one return, by the way. So for example, if there is this function, and if I were to say, okay, I want you to return the value of x first, and then I want you to, do the whole thing, x plus y. So if I were to refresh this and now do add, again, 1020, it will only give me 10. The reason this is happening is because return in a function is like a full stop. It's like this is where this function ends. So it doesn't process underneath it. Like it will be like, okay, they're calling a function called add with the value of 10 and 20. Okay, so the function add, and it's asking us just to return x, the value of x, which is 10. Done. Boom. Gone. It doesn't read any further after this. But there is an exception to this rule. The way you can have more than one return is if you add logical operators that we learned about in our previous video, like if statements or and, if else, like a mixture of all of those things. So if you alter your code with those things, then you can have multiple returns. So for example, let me just show you what I mean. So we can do, like, again, same function, add x and y, but what we're going to do is we're going to say if x is greater than 10 or y is greater than y is my god y is greater than 10, in that case return I can't do this. Right? This makes sense so far. Else return x plus y. Now, final bracket to close it. And then we have to call this function, so add, and then we can put something like 9 and 5, doesn't really matter. Okay, save, refresh. Okay, I can call the function add, and I can do add with, let's do it with 9 and 5, and we get 14. But if we do add with 15 and 5, then we get I can't do this. So this is how you can have more than one return, or you can have something called multiple returns. Now, there is one more thing that I wanted to teach you guys over here, is that you can have, in JavaScript, you can have functions within functions. So for example, let's keep it very simple. Well, I was typing, it wasn't typing. Let's say we have a function add, and we have x and y, and then we just return x plus y. Now we can call the the function alert, which I told you is already a pre-existing function, and inside this function we can have the function add with the values, let's say 5 and 5. So when I control save this and if I refresh here, 10. So this is a way you can add a function within a function, and you don't need to do that whole thing that we did before, like variable sum is you need to assign it to 5 plus 5, or x plus y. No, you don't need to do any of that. You can just put this function inside this function and it does literally the same job. Now, one final thing I want you to remember as we continue to learn JavaScript is the concept of parameters and arguments. These terms are used interchangeably a lot, and they're not really that important, but just so that this is at the back of your head so you guys can remember it. X and Y are called parameters. 5 and 5 are the arguments. Okay? They're used interchangeably all the time. I'm just telling you this so that maybe you guys are reading some documents, or I don't know, you guys are doing some tutorials by yourself and you hear these terms so you won't get confused. They're almost the same, very slight changes. Just remember that, as far as I'm concerned, the vague stuff, the variable, like, that can be assigned a value, they are called parameters, and the value that is assigned, like 5 and 5, are the arguments. Well, that's it for the functions. Now make sure you rewatch this video if you have to as many times, so that you really understand the concept of functions over here, because functions are the heart of JavaScript. I'll leave you guys with an exercise to practice as well, and I'll see you in the next video. Okay, so here's the exercise that I want you guys to practice. Using prompt and alert. Imagine you're making like a Netflix movie control group kind of a thing that will ask users for their age. If they say their age is below 18, you should respond, the alert should respond with, sorry, you're too young to view this movie. If they're equal to 18, it should say awesome. If they are over 18, it should say enjoy the movie. Now pause the video over here, try to come up with a code just using, variable, prompt, alert. Maybe you can try to do it through functions as well. And yeah, once you have done the code, you can come back and try to see the solution. Okay, now I'm about to reveal the solution that I used here. By using the variable age prompt, it will ask what is your age, then if, and here's the code that you can see. This is one of many ways to go at it. You can be creative and try to use the way we learn functions and stuff like that to make it more efficient. But yeah, that's all for this video. In the next video, we will get into more detail about JavaScript. Make sure to like and subscribe, as this is an ongoing course, so you guys don't, miss any videos. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.